This is the show that has a proven track record.
There's crazy plays, there's unbelievable catches, there's long touchdown runs.
This is a show that has a real approach to sports.
You know, in basketball, I get it's a bigger deal, but still, I mean, you know, that's basically 2 guys a year.
This is a show that's not going to give you the sweet stuff.
I value so much the strikeout from a pitcher. I really do, from a starting pitcher. I think that it's the most important stat.
This is the award-winning show that's giving you the truth, just like they always have.
What are we talking about?
Where are we at in society today?
Listen and learn.
This is Delay of Game, the Sports Talk podcast.
Welcome in to another edition here of Delay of Game. Glad to have you along with us. Ryan Swanigan, Brent Bonfleur, and Matt Rigby all with you on another, for some, depending on where you are listening to this podcast, a bitterly freezing cold and snowy, I guess, day. Not exactly the statement that could summarize it all, but, you know, I'm not in those conditions right now. It's actually not too bad. It's average January right now. I think we're at 32. So it's pretty good. Pretty good football weather. And we've got a whole bunch of great stuff in store for today's show, including football. And also, believe it or not, I think for maybe the third time in the history of Delay of Game, we have tennis talk, which I don't know how that's going to go. Because last I checked, these two gentlemen to my left, Matt and Brent, are not exactly tennis people.
What?
Am I wrong?
I love tennis.
Okay, Brent loves tennis. We just found something about Brent. Matt.
I don't follow
I like
tennis. But...
I watch when it's on, you know, like when I'm flipping through the channels and it stops there. But like I know enough about tennis, I guess. You know what I think I realized about tennis a couple months ago? We lived through basically the golden era of men's singles tennis.
That's true.
We live. I mean, what other time was there Djokovic, Federer, Nadal all at the same time?
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. I mean, if you care.
Can we throw in Andy Murray into that too?
No, please, no.
Come on. I like Andy Murray.
You know, I was looking at Andy Murray's career stats in comparison to the other three because I saw that Murray is ranked second at the Aussie Open, and it's not comparable. You just can't compare the four of them.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Again, that's how much I know about tennis and
all
pay
you
attention
need to know
it.
about tennis are those 3 names and then 2 other names, the Williams and Williams.
Yeah, the Williams sisters.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, so yeah, we're going to have that. We're going to have golf mixed in with that too, believe it or not. That's about like maybe the 9th time we've talked about golf in the history of Delay of Game. Maybe less. I don't know. Many other fun stuff. Fun stuff. Fun stuff is in store. Fun topics, items, whatever you want to call it. And of course, our predictions as well. We have some awesome predictions, amazing predictions, and we will get you an update on the latest standings, which I just happened to delete from my Word document, but thankfully, a gentleman by the name of Matt Rigby has them, so we're okay. We're all good. Let's get to the rant.
It's now time for a little R&R.
Ryan's rant, that is. Back to the explosion of a topic that Ryan has in store for today's podcast.
Yeah! Woo! Ah! Check it out!
There's something that's just really bothering the guy, and now you're about to find out what it is.
You gotta be kidding me! Nobody's tackling anybody! Do it live!
There's some absurd things going on in the world of sports, and Ryan's pretty fired up about them.
Hello? You kidding me?
They are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
That's not true!
And now, here's the original Delay of Game produced, Ryan's Rant.
So something that you all could probably, at least baseball fans, can relate to a little more. Something that's not exactly dealing with morals and stuff today, believe it or not. It's like the first time in a long time I've ranted about something that is, you know, actually part of the sports world. on the field, and that is the subject of the designated hitter in the National League. And, of course, Brent Bonfleur doesn't really know that much about baseball, so he's kind of excluded from this topic, I guess.
Oh, rats.
Sorry, Brent.
It's okay.
You know. But anyways, but thankfully, Matt Rigby is here, and, of course, Matt Rigby came in clutch last week, and I'm sure he will definitely do it again this week. But there has been, interestingly enough, and to be fully honest, strangely enough, the designated hitter being implemented in the National League has gotten a lot of attention, and this is where the strange part comes in, a lot of momentum this week. And I thought about this. I was like, well, could I really rant about this? And then I realized that I had already been ranting about it in my mind for the last 10 years, particularly when I'm playing baseball video games. And when you go into season mode and you have the option to select, the designated hitter for auto or, all or none. And I always selected all. And this is why, at least to me, the designated hitter being implemented into the National League has made sense for literally the past 10 years, if not longer. Now, yes, there are those people out there who are just in an uproar like, oh, what? The pitchers can rake, man. They can. Madison Bumgarner hits 5 home runs a season. Yes, that's right. But a couple gentlemen by the name of John Lester and Bartolo Colon do not rake. In fact, they do the opposite. And I'm sure there are plenty of other pitchers in the past who are an embarrassment to, I guess, the batter's box. Another interesting note, too, Chen-Ming Wong, that whole issue in, what was that, Matt, 2009, 2010? 11,
I think it was around
somewhere,
there.
Yeah, when the Yankees and Astros played an interleague game, and Chen-Ming Wong was coming down from third to home and scored, and when he stepped on home plate, he was, he fractured his foot or something happened to his foot.
Waino did that.
Adam Wainwright is exactly that. Just happened this past season, in I believe May, and the list goes on and on. And another interesting note that I thought of too. If there is a designated hitter in the National League, you kind of deflate or I guess you put out the fire of the possibility of pitchers hitting the opposing pitchers at the plate. I think back to Cubs-Pirates in the NL wildcard game. Jake Arrieta had 2 breaking balls get away from him. Actually, one was a fastball. Had a fastball and a breaking ball get away from him, hit 2 Pirates batters. Tony Watson, former Husker, comes in, hits Jake Arrieta, and, then that whole melee ensued, and the Cubs did eventually win that game, which is great. But, and I'm on the fence about, benches clearing brawls and fights in baseball. Yeah, it's awesome to watch. It gets people in an uproar. But it's also kind of dumb when you think about it, like the Pirates-Cubs situation. It's a playoff game. Why are you trying to hit the opposing pitcher to start a fight? Seriously? And then it goes all into we're defending our players, defending our team, and yeah, okay, I get that, whoop-de-doo. But really, the main argument that I have with this DH being implemented into the National League, and then I'll turn it over to Matt Rigby here, is it's another great bat in your lineup. Really, think about that. Think for the Cubs, for example, John Lester and Jason Hamill. I'll even throw in Jason Hamill because he's terrible too. Those two guys cannot hit for the Cubs. And I know Matt Rigby, Bartolo Colon cannot hit, except for that one game where he ended up picking up a double on a blooper down the line.
Ever speak illy of Bartolo Colon.
Oh, he can pitch. Yeah, he can pitch. There's no denying. At the plate,
He can eat.
Yeah, he can. He can eat a lot of things. He also,
if he doesn't have to bat, that gives him more time to eat.
Yeah, he can also eat dirt too if he's running down the line without that DH. But it's my point is with that it's another good bat to have in your lineup. For example, with the Mets, they had Michael Kadire, a guy who had played so long who had played for a time so long in the American League. He's used to that DH spot. So if there was the designated hitter in the National League, the Mets would have an experienced designated hitter on their team in Kadire to place in their lineup. Now, Kadire has retired, so the point is moot at this juncture. But, for example, with the Cubs, Kyle Schwarber can crush the baseball like nobody else nowadays, believe it or not. He cannot play left field. He cannot play an outfield spot. I think he's a better catcher. The debate goes on and on about that. The point with that is the Cubs have this issue where they're trying to find a place for Kyle Schwarber. John Lester can't hit. Jason Hamill can't hit. Cubs hitters, well, Jake Arrieta, I guess he's the exception a little bit. But they can't hit. And if you have the designated hitter there, that's another huge bat to put in your lineup, a.k.a. for the Cubs, Kyle Schwarber goes to the designated hitter spot, and now you don't have to worry about your outfield voids and all of that stuff. You don't have to worry about it. Problem solved. Now, if you're a Giants fan, you're saying Madison Bumgarner is probably one of the most dangerous hitters in baseball in terms of pitchers who can hit. Yes, that is true. That there is no rule that says you can't put a pitcher in the designated hitter spot. Now, I would think that maybe, on Bumgarner's second or third day of rest, you need to rest your designated hitter. You need to rest a different guy so the DH can go play in the field. You need to fill that void. Boom. Giants fans, Madison Bumgarner gets a few at-bats. Now, is he going to hit a home run every time? No, because now pitchers are learning to pitch to him a little bit better than they normally would to any other pitcher in baseball. But with the Giants, you can still get around the fact of having Madison Bumgarner not able to hit anymore. He can still be utilized. It's not illegal. It's not against the rules of baseball. If you're a moral person that thinks that pitchers can't go into the DH, and it won't, learn to accept things in baseball because change always happens. And that is why I'm saying with my point here, this designated hitter for the National League has made sense for a long time, at least to me, especially when I play video games, because, again, it goes back to it's a better bat to have in your lineup, whereas with that pitcher spot, it's an automatic weak zone. You zero in the 8-hole hitter is probably the best friend to an opposing pitcher if there is one out and nobody on base. Because, oh, look who's on deck, a pitcher. Well, let's walk this guy, put him on, and now we can get to the pitcher to force a bad at-bat or a bunt to sacrifice the guy over, but then that's going to get 2 outs. Designated hitter eliminates that. You don't have to worry about that problem from an offensive standpoint. All right, now Matt Rigby, I feel like you are against the designated hitter in the National. Oh, look at that smile on his face. Oh, he is so ready. He is finally ready to tear it up with the ranter of all ranters. Matt Rigby?
there are so many elements to this that people don't even think of. And I'm not saying you haven't thought of them, but that people in general don't even think of. First of all, it's a two-sided debate on so many different sides. It's National League versus American League. And I mean like old-time National League baseball versus American League baseball.
Right.
Like you talk to some guys who played in the NL through the 70s and 80s, and they are like so adamantly against the DH because of just wearing the National League pride. I think that's largely stupid. That's not part of my argument against it. But the other part of the debate is being able to implement the DH for the purposes of entertainment, I guess. It improves the quality of product on the field for the fans versus what it takes away from the strategy of National League baseball.
That's what I was just thinking about.
And like, you've done this because you're a Cubs fan. I've watched NL baseball my whole life. When I watch AL baseball, it dumbs down the game to me because, and you talked about the 8-hitter. There's so much strategy that goes into handling the 8-hitter, even within how you assemble your lineup. And like Joe Madden did some cool things with that this year, with where he pitched the pitcher and trying to get Addison Russell more pitches to hit by batting him 9 behind the pitcher. And just the way you configure your lineup around the pitcher adds so much strategy. But late in games, it adds so much strategy. I mean, an AL manager never has to deal with what are we going to do about pinch hitting for my pitcher and how are we going to manage our bullpen in the late innings, because he never has to really pinch hit. I mean, he never has to do it. And then you start to think about, if a team doesn't have to pinch hit as often in one league as the other, what does that do to roster construction? And I think this is the biggest problem with DH implementation, because if it happens, it happens. I mean, like, I can't fight it, like I like the strategy of it, but will the game as a whole change? No, not really. But to me, the biggest problem with the implementation of it is how do you get, because you use 2 examples of teams that have a DH on their roster. The Mets and Cubs would have had a DH last year. There are a lot of teams in the National League that are not equipped from a personnel standpoint and a roster construction standpoint to have a designated hitter.
I would throw the Giants into that category too of DH, by the way, of teams that are equipped to have a DH already on their team. The Giants, honestly, they might have more than one. And I think, well, you could say Buster Posey and Brandon Belt fit under that category. Easily.
And it's not that hard to reassemble your team, but I guarantee you there will be clubs that say, this is unfair to us because now we have to jump into we have to allocate our payroll, we have to allocate our roster and jump into this on the spot, an entire extra position. And it's not just an extra position. You look at the DH in the AL has turned into sometimes the best hitter on your team. And the argument amongst some National League clubs would be like, we don't have that on our team. It might take us 2 or 3 years to reposition our chess pieces to be able to have a potent DH. And for that time, the American League is substantially higher than the National League. My last thing, the CBA is up this year for Major League Baseball. They're going to go into labor negotiations, and they've been really calm. They're the only league that hasn't locked out since the year 2000. They've been really calm with their labor disputes since 1994 when they locked out. And there are going to be a lot of things that come up that are going to revolve around money, obviously.
Right.
And the players, from everything I've read already, the players are going to jockey for so much at the table when the 2 sides go to the table in this upcoming negotiation. The players are going to jockey for so much because the league has started to make so much money off of TV dollars. The players are going to jockey for so much. And again, if you add that extra position in the National League that gets paid more than your 5th pitcher would get paid for hitting. I mean, you look at the difference. A DH that's playing every day he's probably not making more than your 1 and 2 pitchers. They're probably comparable, but he's definitely making more than your 3, 4, and 5 pitchers. And how are teams going to fight against that and say, we don't, especially cash-strapped teams, they're going to say, we don't want to have to pay another position player top dollar, knowing that the Dodgers can pay. They can afford that. The Yankees can afford that. And this is going, league to league, but teams in the NL would say the Dodgers can afford to pay a DH and we can't, and that causes a problem too. All that being said, I think it probably gets done. And I like I said to you, I don't think that it drastically changes the game, but I love the strategic, just personally, I love the strategical aspect
I do too.
Of National League
I'm not against
baseball.
that at all. What I'm saying is, too, and I just thought of this, why did Arizona sign Zach Greinke? Why did the Cubs sign John Lester? And so on and so forth. Why did the Giants sign Samardzija? Why? And then Cueto and all these other teams who signed these great pitchers this offseason. They signed him to pitch, not to bat, to pitch.
Right.
Yet it's kind of like that annoying scar that you got in elementary school when you played football and you want it gone, but it's never going to go away unless something is actually done about it. That's what pitchers batting in the National League is like. That scar that you got in elementary school from playing football, you won't be able to get rid of it unless you go have surgery or something. Same case for the DH in the National League and pitchers batting. Not every pitcher is Madison Bumgarner, but those who are, of course, they're. I want to know how they're going to feel about this, but everybody else who isn't, it's essentially like, well, then if we sign this guy, like for Arizona, we signed Zach Greinke to pitch, to be dominant, to put up the numbers that he put up last season. We're not worried about his career batting average, what he does at the plate, how many home runs he's hit in his career. That doesn't matter when they sign, and that's why I'm saying if you implement the DH in the National League, well, now you really have turned the tables in favor even more of pitchers, because now you don't have to worry about running the risk of signing them and having them get an injury via an offensive side of, I don't know what I was going for there, but you know what I mean. They don't have to worry about them getting hurt when they're batting or running the bases. And two, it puts, I guess, the chances for them to, I guess, improve their pitching and spend less time in the cages to improve and succeed and figure out what they've got to do to be better, to, as I said, improve and to build upon the success if there is some at their certain respective teams.
And I can't argue that with you. I mean, the merit on 95% of the argument for the DH in the NL is there. I just think the 5% that doesn't have the merit, to me, is why is we need to make the game more entertaining. Like, the game is entertaining to me. Like, I'm not in the major league office that's saying, how do we recruit more fans? Like, I could care less about that. I watch baseball no matter what, whether you have fans or not. So that part of it I don't care about, and it's just like a personal curmudgeon thing. Let me sum up both sides of it, though, with my biggest selling point. And I'll add this to the against it. And my roster construction is the biggest reason I'd be against it. Aside from strategy, it's roster construction reigns even higher than that, because, like I said, teams are going to have such a problem with implementation. Now, that would get fixed in 3 or 4 years, but you're going to have a weird product for 3 or 4 years and a weird balance. And extrapolating on that roster construction, there are teams that have created parity in the National League even, and I'm thinking Arizona's kind of one of these teams because they play such good defense. Miami, Atlanta. There are teams that have brought players through their system for strictly defensive purposes, and they've rewarded defense, and they get rewarded on the field with defense. The Mets got rewarded in the NLCS by the fact that the Cubs really didn't have a defensive left fielder, but they had a guy who could hit. So you're taking away every time you implement something, you're taking away from somebody else. So you're taking away from those teams that have spent years on their defensive construction and saying, well, defense doesn't matter as much anymore because now Schwarber doesn't have to play a spot on the field. So it's a roster construction thing in general that makes me against it.
Right.
But my biggest selling point for it, and this is total hypocrisy amongst baseball.
Mm-hmm.
In college baseball, in all the minor league systems, whether they're an NL team or an AL team, they have a DH.
It's all there.
And so if you really think that the NL needs one, like if you're part of that argument, then you need to improve the hitting product that comes up amongst pitchers. Because a lot of these pitchers come up, they haven't taken an at-bat in 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
They don't take ABs in the minors.
Exactly.
And so that's what really makes it look terrible. So if you're for the DH or for not having the DH in the NL and you want to state your case, you have to pander a little bit to baseball, who wants a more entertaining product, and you have to have your guys hit in the minor leagues because they have to come up and at least give you something. Because yes, a lot of the times, to quote Max Scherzer, a lot of times they're out there with a wet newspaper, and it looks terrible.
And the old ways of pitchers not batting extends all the way down even into high school too, and with. I'm trying to collect my thought on this because you're right. Pitchers are not taking at bats until the major league level in only 50% of Major League Baseball, and that's the National League if they're on that side. And so the argument, you really have all of baseball except the National League going against the National League. And I'm not just talking about the majors. I'm talking, as you just pointed out, the minors, the college system, high school. That is all against the National League in their argument, saying, well, we need to keep the DH there. Well, why? When the AL, the minors, and everything below has a designated hitter. It has never made sense why it shouldn't be implemented. To me, you make very good arguments though, Matt, and again, the strategy is, I get that. I've done that a lot of times when I'm playing baseball video games too. I do sometimes use without the DH, and it is fun for a strategy. But I think the majority of baseball fans are not on a level that we are, where we're analyzing and understanding the game fully. They're just there to watch something exciting happen. Mm-hmm. And more often than not, unless you're in San Francisco, you're not going to see anything exciting happening with a pitcher. Now, Zach Greinke hit a home run this year. Jake Arrieta hit a home run this year. But it wasn't like Madison Bumgarner, where every single time he stepped up to the plate, he was ready to take one out towards the left field porch near the Coca-Cola bottle, or the glove out in left center at AT&T Park, or maybe put one way beyond that into the boats out by the dock in the bay. So it's that brings a lot of excitement, but that's just an isolated single incident for one team. Every other team in baseball, they don't really have that. I mean, Jose Fernandez for the Marlins, for example, everybody just goes nuts when he hits a home run. He only one home run this year, that is. So it's not a common thing. It's more of just a rare thing for pitchers to hit home runs. And that's another reason that everybody wants a DH, because the opportunity to see more home runs out of the designated hitter versus a pitcher, drastically different.
And that's why I think it'll happen, because baseball desperately does whatever they can to get the league out of a dead ball era when they're in a dead ball era. And we're in a dead ball era right now, and they'll do it. I mean, something that I was much more adamantly against was them trying to, or was talk from Manfred last year about eliminating shifts, because I think that would be ridiculous. But again, it's an example of we'll do anything we can to put more runs on the scoreboard. So that's why I think it'll happen within reason, and the DH is within reason to me. So I think it'll happen. It's just from a personal curmudgeon fan standpoint, I don't want it to. But I get the
highly
argument.
Intelligent baseball fan perspective. Right. Yeah, exactly. Interesting note too with the shift. That I thought was dumb that they were trying to eliminate that, because then it's like, well, wait a minute, wait. If you have a shift going on, that means you have to force the opposing team and the opposing batter to come up with a strategy to beat the shift.
Right, yeah.
Why wouldn't you want that? It forces creativity, and creativity in baseball usually gets fans excited.
Well, and give me one reason why players who are shifted against don't drag a bunt down the first base line. We still have, I mean, Rizzo does it sometimes, but we still haven't seen consistently players do that. So don't give me, don't give me, we can't hit against the shift. You haven't tried.
You can, all you have to do, like you just said with Anthony Rizzo, I was thinking that exact person, exact player, all he's got to do is lay a bunt down the third base line and he's on base.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, yeah, we all want home runs from the big hitters, but it's a base runner. That alone puts pressure on the defense in, one, changing their shift, and two, their pitcher now has to be concerned with first base being occupied, and he's got to worry about pitching to the next guy after it, which is probably another dangerous hitter, and I don't know, like Kyle Schwarber or Miguel Montero. That's a big deal in itself, but that's a rant for another time. Stuff with the baseball guys here, Matt and Ryan, and we continue on.
This is Delay of Game,
a sports talk podcast. Available on YouTube and online at thedelayofgamepodcast.wordpress.com.
Delay of Game is going to the monitor and having a look at something controversial or crucial from the week in sports. It's under review.
Brent Bonfleur doing his best impersonation of Cody Broder dancing to this music.
Oh, boy.
Which, by the way, I'm at least going to try and compile a guest list with Brent and Matt of guests that we want to have on our separate podcast from the regular show, Guest Work. I know Doug Lowry will be a monthly feature, and so we'll have that, but we need to get Cody Broder on the show again. We need to get Shelley Smith back on this show. And I know I guess it's more your connection than mine, even though Shelley and I had long conversations about the sports world and announcers and stuff when she was here. I can't believe 2 years ago. Or maybe it was 2 years ago. But anyways, so we're going to try and do a good job of bringing on guests and whatnot and all that fun stuff. So 2 topics in store for today for Under Review, and let us first begin with the NBA one. Let's first begin with the standings for the NBA, in case those of you don't know what they are, because it's really interesting this year. Cavs, Raptors, Bulls, Hawks, Pacers, Pistons, Celtics, Heat, 1 through 8 in the Eastern Conference. In the Western Conference, get this, get ready for this. One of these teams is not like the other, as in they are sub 500. That is the Sacramento Kings in the 8th spot. Golden State, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Los Angeles, Memphis, Dallas, Houston, Sacramento, 1 through 8. The Spurs are 2 games behind my Warriors for first place in the West. But I don't care, because the Warriors, despite the argument from the illustrious Devin Cleach, they are the best team in the NBA, and Devin continues to argue against the fact. But, it is what it is.
We'll see tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right, yes. Warriors-Spurs Monday night. We're going to be predicting that later in the show. All right, Brent, I'm going to throw it to you first because we left you out for baseball, but you don't like baseball. So Cleveland entered last night's game 30-11. That would be good for 4th place in the Western Conference. That is good for 1st in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
They are 16 and they were 16-2 at home. They are 14-9 on the road. They're 2-4 in their division. 20 and 6 in their conference going into last night's game. They are averaging a plus 5.2 point differential, averaging 101 while giving up almost 96. Wouldn't that sound for a first-place team in the Eastern Conference like everything's going well? No issues whatsoever with their head coach, GM, players. Everything sounds pretty good.
It sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
But then you got to look at their game against Golden State.
Not very much fun, is it?
Where they lost by like 50?
A lot.
Or 40? Some ridiculous margin. I don't know. I know at one point they were down like an insane amount of points. And it just really wasn't even competitive at all. I don't think the coach was necessarily the right move there. I think that's the easy move. Because you look at it and you're like, well, we have all this talent, and Cleveland does have a lot of talented players on their. They got probably the best player, one of the best players of all time, in LeBron James. And it's easy just to look at the coach and say, well, he's just not utilizing our players in the right way, so let's just fire him. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. I'm not at their practices and stuff. I don't know what all David Blatt was doing, but it seems to me like that's just a cop-out for the real problem, which is what Oklahoma City was really struggling with and what they still struggle with at times, which is how you balance these players and stuff, because it's very hard for 3 players to all that were superstars on their own teams. Granted, Kyrie Irving was already in Cleveland, but he was the superstar of that team. Well, then you bring in LeBron, so obviously he's going to be the superstar, which kind of helps Kyrie, actually, because he's not supposed to be the guy who scores 30 points every game. That's LeBron. But then you bring in Kevin Love, who's a superstar for Minnesota, or whoever he was playing. He was with Minnesota before he went to the Cavs, right?
Right.
And it's like there's just not enough ball.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a big 3.
There's too much there.
But the original big 3, which really they're not even the original. The original big 3 was in Boston. With Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett. But they didn't. Ray Allen didn't score 25 points a game. He scored like 15, maybe. A lot of that
he
was
didn't take you off the dribble either. Yeah, he just stood in the corner.
And it was pretty
open,
much just Paul Pierce shooting, and then you got Kevin Garnett down low getting the rebounds and stuff. That system works well. In Miami, the big 3 was LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. And Bosh didn't score a whole lot. No, there are games, obviously. And Wade had games, but Wade didn't score a lot either. Most of the scoring among those 3 came through LeBron. But when you have guys who can accept that they're not the man anymore, because unless he goes to Golden State, LeBron is the man. And even then, I think LeBron is the man over Steph Curry.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, no, it's still LeBron.
You better double check that, my friend.
I think a lot of Warriors fans would have a different say with that one.
Probably every Warriors fan would have a different say with that one. But they're Warriors fans. Let's see, Curry.
Which, fans control a lot of the
Curry's been good for
the team.
Like 2 years. And by good, we mean like superstar good, right? It's been like 2 years. Let's be real.
I'd say 3.
Oh, okay, 3 years.
Maybe,
LeBron has been
maybe more.
4
at max. 4 at max.
I'm not even going to give you 4. Anyway,
4
LeBron has been good his entire career. He has been the superstar since day one. You give him the nod. And I think in Cleveland, they just haven't figured out how to balance their big 3. And when you can't, and you try stuff and it doesn't work, and it's
not working out for Kevin Love.
Yeah,
at the end of the day,
the one, right?
That's the guy
who's having a hard time fitting into his role there.
Yeah, it doesn't work out. Right. And again, it's like when you force things, it's not usually going to work out.
No.
Cleveland, I felt, forced the matter with Kevin Love. Now, was Andrew Wiggins going to work out there too? Probably not, because LeBron didn't even acknowledge him when he said he was coming back to Cleveland.
Yeah.
So that right there was a sign that Wiggins out. But Kevin Love coming in now that doesn't work either. So, you kind of need to. I honestly think that David Griffin, maybe this is me hoping, but it would make sense for David Griffin, who is a very smart GM, by the way, very, very smart guy, to get rid of Kevin Love and bring in, I don't know, maybe a couple draft picks and a very good bench player who could be a starter, but somebody that, that I guess, like a J.R. Smith deal, know? You bring in J.R. Smith, buddies with LeBron, it worked out great. Do that again, but make sure that you bring in a lot more because you're giving up a lot in Kevin Love.
Right.
So
going back to David Blatt, though, I think this is just a perfect example of a coach who's the casualty of his players not working out. I don't know that it's ever going to work out with that trio of guys in Cleveland. I don't know that,
I agree.
That Kevin Love, LeBron James, Kyrie Irving are ever going to work. Maybe they will. I don't know. Maybe another coach will be able to get them all in sync, and it'll be a good thing. I don't think so. You certainly haven't seen anything that would suggest that to this point. And so it just seems like, it's easier to get rid of Blatt than to get rid of Kevin Love right now. So that's what happened,
Matt?
In my opinion.
We talked last week about my biggest problem. We talked about it with the NFL. My biggest problem with coaching changes is what the net gain is. And I know that being on this campus, the net gain was happiness, because you got a former Husker.
Oh,
to
former
be the
Husker
cloud
LeBron
of
James.
Depression and anger and angst was lifted from the campus.
Yeah.
For some, I bet you there's probably others who have no idea who Tyronn Lue is.
Yeah, probably. Exactly.
So let's be real here.
But the reason I make that point is because, and I'm not making any comment about Tyronn Lue. I'm just saying, you fired David Blatt because you think that, regardless of the Cavs record, because if you just look at it on paper, if you're a numbers guy and you just look at numbers, it makes no sense. So the thinking is they fired David Blatt because the performance on the court is not good enough. They don't get enough out of Kevin Love. They don't run the offense correctly through him. It's all LeBron's offense, or it's Kyrie's offense on a certain night, and then LeBron has to try to facilitate to Kevin Love, and it just looks so discombobulated. So you fire David Blatt because you can't put that together. But do you then think that a guy who's never coached in the league before at the head coach level can all of a sudden put that together? Right. I mean, because you are still, what are they, 30-12?
Yeah,
you are still 30-12.
Right.
You still are the number one seed in the East. You still have a conceivable shot at winning a title. So, at least say that you have a plan. I think firing coaches sometimes is just, it's got to be politics sometimes. It goes so much deeper than just because to save face, and I don't think it's just saving face, because analysts will tell you that Blatt doesn't do a good enough job with the pieces there. Maybe the pieces there are the problem as well, but it's almost like you save face with that because it's not enough to justify not bringing in a better coach on top of it. It's almost just like, too many people in the building didn't like David Blatt, and so we're going to fire him. And it's who's got the strong hand in the front office, it seems like sometimes, because they're still 30-12. It's not like they're like, well, this is totally not working, so we're going to fire a coach and wait till next year. You have half a basketball season to play in which you're still the number one seed in the East right now. You're still daring other teams in your own conference to beat you. And
David Blatt had a pretty decent record.
He's 85 and 40.
83 and 40.
Yeah, 83 and 40.
That's not bad at all.
It's not bad.
You look at all these other teams that would just give to have that record. Washington right now, the Knicks, the Hornets, the Magic, the Bucks, the Nets.
Well,
Philadelphia 76ers.
Let me comment on as a Broncos fan. When John Fox was the Broncos head coach, their record was always good. But I think every Broncos fan knew that John Fox was not getting enough out of the team. And so you knew, man, they're never going to win a Super Bowl with John Fox. He's the real problem that's keeping them from the peak of the mountain. Now, I think that's some of the thinking with Blatt. But that being said, the Broncos never fired John Fox in the middle of a season and said, well, he's just not getting it done. Because he was getting it done. And so they never said, no, we just don't feel like he can get us to the top. They waited until he didn't get them to the top and then said, all right, now we're going to try and find a better head coach. And like the record's the same with Kubiak, but it's obvious he's a better head coach. So my point with Cleveland is you're almost like throwing this season away in the middle of the season just doesn't make sense, to wait until the end of the year if you really think that's a problem, or maybe compromise at the end of the year and say we're going to keep Blatt but get rid of Love, whether that's the easier route or not. But it just doesn't make sense in the middle of the year. I never understand that kind of stuff.
I think if you're adamant about getting rid of Blatt and he's the one who needs to go, because I think it's Kevin Love and you can't do that right now. Like you said, if you're gonna get rid of Kevin Love, then you wait till the end of the season, then you get rid of him. If you're gonna get rid of Blatt, I do agree with doing it right now, even though that's like the wrong move. They executed it the right way, because I think the problem with Cleveland is you could take Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love off that team and they'd still probably make it. Same. They might be the number 1 seed just because LeBron James is that good. Yeah. You bring in other players like that, not to beat the Raptors and the 76ers, not to beat the East. You bring them in to beat two teams. Yeah. Golden State and San Antonio.
That's right.
In the finals.
Yeah.
That is all. That is all that matters. And it's apparent that this team is not going to be able to do that based on the way they played against Golden State last game. In a 7-game series, it's just like for them to win 4, it just seems... they may win 2, maybe 3, but it doesn't, like, they're just never going to beat either of those teams 4 times.
And now to this point, too, to the point of how badly Cleveland lost to Golden State, if, and this is a big if, Golden State tomorrow night, Monday, defeats San Antonio by, I don't know, the same way that they just torched Cleveland, Chicago, all these other top teams, then I think there's some validity in Cleveland's loss, because it just goes to show, okay, Golden State is at a level that we haven't seen since the Bulls in the 90s.
Right.
Because that's what Chicago was doing to a lot of other teams at certain points, was just torching them. Golden State has done that same thing. And it's like we have forgotten what that is like. It's been 20 years since we have seen something like this.
So Brent, you're in favor of a mid-season coaching change because it's obvious that they, as presently constructed, cannot beat those 2 teams in the West, and you got to do something, is what you're saying.
I think it's the wrong move to get rid of the coach. I think the right move is Kevin Love.
Right, but if you're going to fire the coach,
I think, because I one of the worst feelings in sports, I think, is when you have a good team, but you're not even close to the next guy up. You know what I mean? Yeah. When you're number 2, but number 1 is way up here.
I love how you're bringing up the good team, great team conversation up again.
Oh, yeah. Well, we won't get into that. But
it kind of fits into this scenario.
Cleveland's a very, very good team. One of the best teams. Probably the third best team.
I'd say they're great.
Well, I don't know if they're great. Golden State,
because they have LeBron. Right, that's why they're great.
Well, whatever. But what I'm saying is that's a horrible, empty feeling, is to be basically just a facade, because no matter how many, they could go undefeated in the East in the regular season, and they're just not going to beat San Antonio or Golden State in 7 games, and so it doesn't matter. And so it's almost like, well, what does it matter? Yeah, because like you said, this season's probably lost.
It's expediting the process then.
And when your standard is winning the championship, and you're just not going to do that, you might as well start. It's not like a pat on the back, good job, you made the right call. Like, this is like a dumpster fire, and you just managed to contain it to the dumpster and not let it, spread. So it's not like I'm saying, oh, good move, Cleveland. It's more like, well, you made the best out of a crap situation. So, that's just, Cleveland's got to feel terrible that they brought this in, they have the big 3, and it's just not good enough.
Yeah.
And all that time, all that money is wasted.
And it also, but it also might, too, be the fact that, Well, look at what Eric Spoelstra did down in Miami with the Heat and how he handled the big three there. It's pretty much the same thing as it is now, except the Heat weren't getting blown apart. Yeah, they had a terrible first start because they were trying to get it all together. Everybody thought it'd be a catastrophe, much like last year with Cleveland. They go on to the NBA Finals, they lose the first game.
Yeah.
Same, and then this season starts out the same way. Top of the, top tier in the Eastern Conference, but instead, the different result midseason. Eric Spoelstra. Why is that tricky to say? Spoelstra is, cruising right along here. Fine, they have some road bumps here and there, but then, Pat Riley's not going to fire Spoelstra because of it. This is a little bit different because 2, 3, 4 years ago, there was no team like Golden State at that time. Mm-hmm. And again, you see how huge of a factor Golden State is in this whole scenario. They have really kind of influenced the David Blatt firing because of that game and how badly they just got destroyed. That wasn't going on with LeBron and Spoelstra and the Heat 3 or 4 years ago because there was no team like Golden State
right,
at that time.
They were Golden State.
Exactly.
Even
they
compared
were so
to the
good.
Spurs, they were better.
Yeah, and when they played other teams that were at their level or maybe even a team or two above their level, they still were not getting destroyed. They were losing by 5, 3, 6, reasonable scores. But again, that's because there was no Golden State at that time. There is now, and we haven't seen a team like this in 20 years. And everybody, like quoting the Batman, everybody's just losing their minds. But they are. Because Golden State is just, they're not even making it a game, except for the 4 times they lost, which I don't even know. Everybody just kind of, it's like, oh, shocking. Oh, moving on, they won again. They just got over it so fast. And now with Cleveland getting destroyed like that, it's like, this is terrible. We're better than that. But it's like, are you really?
Nah.
Because Golden State is... You can't get better than Golden State. You can't. They're on a level, like I said, that we haven't seen since Scottie Pippen was with Michael Jordan, was with Steve Kerr, was with Dennis Rodman, etc. That was, by the way, I think the original Big Three, but maybe it was the Big Four. I don't know.
Oh, there have been Big Threes the whole time. It's just
exactly. But my point is with Golden State, they influenced this firing a little bit more than I think people are giving them credit for because of that game. Mm-hmm. And David Griffin saw that and was like, well, we got to fix this. And yeah, maybe firing Blatt wasn't the right move, but I certainly think that keeping Kevin Love is the wrong move for Cleveland.
Well, you can't just dump him now. I mean, you got to work with what you got for the rest of the season.
I would think that,
I don't even know if they can actually technically do that via his contract.
Nothing really changed last night, to be honest with you. I don't know if either of you guys watched that game. I watched the first half of that game. It's like, nothing's really changed with this. So maybe you want to dump him off somewhere because I really don't think David Blatt firing is going to do enough. I don't know, but we'll see. I don't know. That was topic number 1 for Under Review. Oh. Topic number 2, we get into Matt Rigby's tennis. And this was actually the big deal earlier in the week. And the betting scandal, the supposed betting scandal that happened earlier in the week, a report saying that that matches were fixed and that top players they took money to lose matches. And then I watched Outside the Lines on ESPN earlier in the week, I think on Wednesday or Thursday or whenever. And I saw their report, and what basically it is it's the lower end of tennis. The matches that nobody, they're not being televised. Nobody's going to those matches. And that's when it really got confusing for me. But quite honestly, the bigger perspective of this is, who all really cares about this? And I don't think everybody cares about this and where it may be, whether it be, at the bottom tier of tennis itself, or if it includes Novak Djokovic or Roger Federer or Rafael Nadal or Andy Murray or whoever, it doesn't. I was like, okay. I am not a tennis fan. I don't really connect to that. So it didn't really, it's kind of like, and I moved on. Didn't really do anything for me. I don't know how you guys felt about that, but the
I didn't even know.
The topic of this, wow, I'm surprised you didn't. How did you not know about that?
About the tennis scandal?
Yes.
I don't know.
It gripped everybody. Everybody in England was going nuts. But see, that's my point, though.
I don't live in England.
See, that's my point with tennis. If you look at the U.S. Open here in, where is it held?
Flushing.
Is it in New York? Yeah. So you look at the U.S. Open. You compare that to Wimbledon. The two are not even close. Wimbledon is this giant thing that is like prestigious and not of this earth. Essentially, that's how that's how everybody looks at Wimbledon, especially everybody who is involved in tennis and follows tennis and is all interested in that.
Right.
The U.S. Open is like, it's the chance for all the tennis stars to come to America and do their thing.
Right.
Wimbledon is like, you stop everything, mainly because it's the middle of July and there's nothing else going on. But you stop everything and you watch Wimbledon. That's the only time I watch tennis, is Wimbledon. And I don't even watch it consistently. But where is Wimbledon? It's in England.
Right.
Great Britain. It's over there. It's not here. Kind of like soccer. But soccer is becoming more popular here in the U.S. because there's also, there's soccer is not just, across the Atlantic. It's also all over the world and a global sport. Tennis, you could say, is and I use air quotes around this, global sport, but not everybody connects to it because it is kind of, that pristine upper class type of athletic event that not everybody is interested in or connects to. And Matt, chime in. Am I right on this? Am I thinking properly with this? That's how I feel it is, and that's why I bring in golf, because that's what golf and tennis are for those who follow it so closely. It connects to the, I guess, the rich more than everybody else.
I think golf and tennis both fit this vein. Tennis especially, the word I've always used to describe them both, they're aristocratic sports more than anything else.
That's what I was looking for.
And so in that regard, I used to be really, and I still follow it casually, I used to be really into Formula One racing. Mm-hmm. And that, outside of soccer, you could say that's the second global sport. I mean, Formula One racing is a global entity. And I mean, I went to the U.S. Grand Prix 5-6 years ago. My grandparents went again this year. It was in Austin. And, one of the interesting things about the Grand Prix is that, automobile racing is, largely, and NASCAR exemplifies this, it's largely just a show more than it is, a real heavy competition.
It's an entertainment value.
Right. And I think that golf is competitive, but it's kind of a show. It's a craft more than anything else. It's like pool. You sit, you watch it, and you're like, okay, these guys are skilled, but they're not overly athletic. Tennis, I think you can make the argument that they're overly athletic, but it also requires a lot of skill. And the aristocratic nature of all three of those, the entertainment value worldwide of all three of those, kind of marginalizes it in the arena of American sport, because the arena of American sport is ultra athleticism, ultra competition. You know, like take baseball, basketball, soccer, or baseball, basketball, football. Yeah, thank you. Like, how could I forget? And those are ultra athletic. You know, like and so I understand that divide. But here's one thing the one sport that. And I'm going to get this shot in because I feel like it's my duty. Here's one sport that is kind of stands separately. Hockey is an ultra-athletic sport too, but it's treated like the other sports that are more shows and more entertainment things. Hockey's treated like tennis. Hockey's treated like golf.
Well, I would disagree with that. I don't. To me, I don't feel as if hockey is in that category with tennis or golf or Formula One racing. But I don't think it's at the level of the NFL, of Major League Baseball, of the NBA. I think it's in between.
But it shouldn't be to me. And the reason it's in between, I'll buy that it's in between. But the reason it's in between is because of the way sports media has created a hierarchy in general. So, like, ESPN has no money. They have no live broadcasting rights for hockey, so they barely cover it because it doesn't benefit them. And whereas the other three, they do. They even have some tennis and golf rights, so they'll cover that more than hockey sometimes. But I think it's partly responsibility. Like devout American tennis fans could make a case that it is sports media's responsibility to give due time to every sport, because I know hockey fans have been making that case since the last lockout. So in that regard, I kind of get people taking their shots, but at the same time, I understand what you're saying about it doesn't quite fit into the American vein of sports the way we traditionally know it. But sports is cyclical too. I mean, I was reading a little bit about boxing this weekend, and like, there was a time when boxing was it in America. Horse racing was it in America. And they're gone. You know, they don't mean anything anymore. So sports are cyclical. I think that football is going to be gone in 20 years. I really do.
Culture changes.
Yeah.
Culture changes.
So it's all cyclical, and I think that right now, to put a summation on everything, right now, tennis, golf, how much do Americans care?
So I would think that hockey kind of... Here's how hockey is different from tennis and golf. Tennis and golf, as you said, they're aristocratic sports. Hockey is more of a geographical thing.
Right.
In Canada, the northern parts of America, like you know Minnesota, Michigan, New York, Maine. I'd say even probably like Montana, Idaho, Washington. There's not really any hockey teams up there, but the Dakotas, Iowa, Wisconsin, Northern Illinois, Ohio, and it's a cold weather sport. You need a certain type of weather for it to happen, or certain type of water. And some places that certain type of water isn't there, like in Florida, Arizona, Southern California, Texas, etc. The southern states, Georgia, and so on and so forth. That isn't a thing for them to see ice, and that's why I feel, again, that's why it's in that range where it's not on the NFL, MLB, NBA level, but it's not with the tennis and the golf and Formula One racing and even horse racing. It's just it's in its own little sliver of a category.
I agree
on
with
the
you.
pyramid.
I agree with you on that. I just think I made the point about it to overall criticize the way that we decide sometimes what sports we're going to cover.
Right.
And not saying
I would say that plays a factor,
you don't
too.
have time to cover everything, but you decide the popularity of a sport, or ESPN decides the popularity of a sport based on their own self-interest.
Right.
And sometimes I think that's wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, that's fair. Brent, any final thoughts on tennis, golf? Because, I was thinking about this, too. There was a scandal that was in golf a few years back as well. I can't remember not Tiger Woods, but it was something else. And it was like a lot of people didn't really care because a lot of people just don't connect with golf anymore.
Yeah.
And that's how this is with tennis. It's like,
I'll tell you what, after talking about this, I really wish I had a day just to watch some tennis and some golf.
you could watch today. Australian Open's going on.
There's football on.
That's true. Well, if you had,
I don't want to watch it that bad.
Do you see what ESPN has done to him? Do you see what ESPN has done to him?
Yeah.
There's football on.
Football's on.
Well, of course, this coming from a Baltimore Ravens fan, though, you know.
Yeah.
Football's on today, but his team isn't there.
Don't talk to me. You don't even have the courage to pick a team.
The courage.
Yeah, no, I have the courage. I just don't feel like it's a necessity. You know? I don't feel like it's. You know what I mean?
Get out of here. Thank you.
Okay.
You don't have the courage to pick a team. You don't sit here and
I have the courage. I just
trash.
don't feel like it's an urgent matter. You know. You know.
With that outlook, though.
Yeah.
With that outlook, when does it become an urgent matter?
Yeah, boy.
Life or death?
Yeah. On your deathbed, I think I'm gonna go.
No, I wouldn't even feel
the Chiefs.
I wouldn't even feel the urgency then.
Yeah, get out of here.
It's just gotta happen, you know.
Get out of here.
It's not gonna be something where it's like I'm just gonna force myself to make the decision. It will just happen one day, okay? It will happen.
Yeah.
I don't know when it will happen.
All right.
Especially if I become a famous broadcaster, which, you know, I'm still questioning every single day. But the point with that is, if I do reach the level of Mr. The Kevin Kugler, I probably won't have a favorite NFL team. I will probably, by that point, be so neutral to everything except Cubs baseball that it will just be that way. But you never know.
How will the world ever go on?
I don't know.
Do you like to hear yourself sounding like an idiot?
That's a great question, Cody Broder, and I'm sure we'll ask you that on a future guest work podcast. It's Delay of Game.
You're listening to Delay of Game,
a sports talk podcast. On Facebook.com/Delay of Game and on Twitter at DOG_podcast.
This is what's really going on with Brent Bonfleur.
So this will be the 17th time that Brady and Manning face off. I'm not sure which number it is as far as playoffs, but as far as the AFC Championship game, I think it's number 4? Number 4? 3, 4, something like that.
More than once.
More than once. And so this has been a debate ever since I can remember, which was who's
pretty
better.
Obvious, isn't it?
Right. Who's better, Brady or Manning? And for a long time, that was sort of my initial response was like, well, how do you choose? And there was always Brady's better in the playoffs, obviously, but Manning's better in the regular season. And it's like, well, look at the surrounding casts. Who's better, who's benefited more from their, teammates. But
you kidding me?
But I think now, in the twilight hour of Peyton's career, this is it for Peyton.
Yeah.
He's pretty much got to win this Super Bowl, or he's going to finish with less Super Bowls than his brother. And I don't think anyone, when you think about, that cathedral of greatest quarterbacks of all time, you're not putting Eli Manning up at the top. He's
especially in the Manning family.
He's, if you're doing the pyramid, he's one of the supports on the bottom. Good. But, nowhere close.
You gotta be kidding me!
It's the greatest of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I think the answer is very obvious that Tom Brady is better.
It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
I think, substantially, because for as many great regular seasons as Peyton has had, and just about every single one of them was great, aside maybe like 3, Brady's probably got something similar. And head-to-head, it's really not even close. It's 11-5 right now in favor of Brady. And he's played much better. They've got sort of similar numbers. Peyton has more yards and I think like one more touchdown. But he's got like twice as many interceptions and half the wins.
You want the numbers? Here are the numbers.
I mean, sure.
Tom Brady's NFL career numbers. Passing attempts, 7,792. Passing completions, 4,953
we don't need all
for
the
a
career
percentage
numbers.
of 63.6. Touchdowns, 428. Interceptions, 150. A passer rating of 96.4. Peyton Manning. We'll skip the attempts completions. The percentage on those is 65.3. That is better than Brady's. Touchdowns, touchdowns 539 to interceptions 251. More touchdowns for Manning, but more interceptions for Manning. The passer rating is 96.5.
And what was Brady's?
96.4.
Wow. And that's about, how close they might be.
That's the numbers.
That's the numbers.
But you throw in the number Super Bowls.
And it's 4-1.
4-1.
And if Brady gets one more, then he has 5. And he is the only one. He has separated himself from who all have 4.
Joe Montana, Terry Bradshaw.
That's it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love this kid right here because he's wearing a Peyton Manning jersey right now. So, I mean...
It's not like we're saying Peyton is bad.
No.
We're just talking about between these two.
Who is the greatest of all time between these two, and the numbers go in favor of Tom Brady.
Yeah. And
especially if you throw in the Super Bowls thing, because that's really kind of what matters.
Right. And if you think
Believe it or not,
Peyton is one of the few number one draft picks, quarterbacks that really panned out. I mean, he has lived up to that and beyond, no doubt, one of the greatest careers all time. But Brady was 6th round, right? 6th round?
199.
Yeah, 199 as opposed to number 1. And look what he's done. And I think
Patriots got him for $1.99 pretty much.
Yeah, right. And you just look at the way their careers started and have gone on. Peyton has lived up to the expectations and surpassed.
Oh, yeah.
But Tom Brady has, just blown them away. I mean, it's like
explosion sound
ever expected Tom Brady to be the best quarterback in NFL history, which, you can debate who's the best, blah, 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 whatever. And so it's like, this game is going to be huge. And I think if Peyton wins and then wins the Super Bowl, that helps a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I think it helps a lot. But if he doesn't, it's really sad.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Well, let's hear it from Matt Rigby.
Yeah.
Who's wearing the Peyton Manning jersey?
Let me first take a moment to, in the twilight hour, as Brent put it, to appreciate, on Sunday night after the Broncos won and I, within 20 minutes, turned my attention to the Patriots, I sat and I thought, Brady Manning was our entire childhood. I mean, it was like when in 2001, when we were 6-7 years old, it was Brady Manning. We're sitting here in 2015. I'm in my 4th year of college. I'm 21 years old. And these two guys are meeting for a chance to go to the Super Bowl again.
Right.
It doesn't go away. And I think that is the coolest thing in the world. So this age-old debate where people tend to take really passionate stances, and I think a lot of that has to do with hating Tom Brady, because a lot of people do. But this age-old debate where people take really passionate stances, I've taken this entire week to just appreciate as a football fan what these two guys have done for my entire life. We lived through an amazing era of quarterbacking from these two guys.
Yes.
But I think in the last couple years, first of all, as a guy who watches a lot of tape, the best quarterback I've ever seen on film is Dan Marino, and he never won a Super Bowl. Just the best pure pocket passer, the best skill set, everything around, or everything that he could do from the pocket, this and that, everything that goes into, to me, playing quarterback. I thought he was the best. That being said, in the last couple years, when I'm asked the question, who's the greatest quarterback of all time, I have shifted my answer to Tom Brady. I've said, because there's just so much that, like, he does in the playoffs, and I think Aaron Rodgers summed it up perfectly a couple weeks ago when he said, he said something along the lines of, your reputation is written in the regular season, but your legacy is written in the postseason.
Right.
And Tom Brady has just written his legacy there. And Peyton hasn't. And, even in the last 4 or 5 years as a Broncos fan, I've watched Peyton totally choke in the playoffs. He really does. He totally wilts up and chokes. He choked last week. He did not play a good game last week. In full disclosure, I expect him to choke again today. I really do. And
can I just say his receivers did not help that
No,
scenario.
they didn't. And
Too many
his
drops.
offensive line didn't help him, this and that.
Yeah.
But my point is, he's not the Peyton Manning that I talked about we've had since our childhood. He's not that in the postseason. And I think that just matters so much. But the other thing I've realized, and this I think makes the debate almost moot to me in the end. The other thing I've realized in the last 3-4 years, when I've really seen my rivalry as a fan with the Patriots ratchet up, and I've really started to pay attention to him, Tom Brady has the best coach of all time, and he's had the best coach of all time on his staff, or at the helm of his team for his entire career. And not only the best coach, he has the best talent evaluator, in my opinion, and he has the best, really one of the 2 or 3 best GMs of all time, because Belichick does it all.
Right. And one of the best owners.
Right. And exactly, probably the best owner in NFL history.
Right.
You could argue outside of DeBartolo, maybe. So how much of that is beneficial to Tom Brady? So much. I mean, like, there are so many years where you're like, yeah, Brady outplayed Manning today, but Brady has so much more than Peyton does. Like, Brady has a defense. Brady has a coach that game plans against Peyton. Matter of fact, in the last 5-6 matchups, I haven't even thought of it as Brady Manning. I've thought of it as Manning Belichick. That's the matchup to me, because it's not Brady Fox or Brady Kubiak or Brady whoever. It's never Brady Dungy. It's never been that to me. So in that way, the debate has almost seemed moot to me. But I do realize there is a debate. I probably go with Brady because Peyton's been so bad in the playoffs, and you just can't deny that. But I love watching them both on film. Peyton's the most cerebral quarterback I've ever seen.
I agree with that as well.
It's an appreciation thing for me at this point. And I honestly think, like, although we love to have this debate now because they've played 17 times,
right.
I honestly think that in 20 years, we're not going to look and say, like, we're not going to tell our kids, oh, yeah, Tom Brady or Brady Manning was a thing, and then they're going to be like, who's better or who was better? I think we're just going to say it was a heck of a rivalry. That's what we're going to say. And we're not going to be like, oh, Brady was so much better than Peyton. Like, you can't. I don't think you'll ever be able to say that. So while it's Brady now, if I had to make a choice, and it'll probably be Brady even further after the end of today, it's awesome to see them both there again.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think a better way, maybe not the best, but a better way than saying, well, who's the greatest and let's rank them all time, is to do tiers. Mm-hmm. And like, so Dan Marino would probably be in tier one, even though he's in, and so would Peyton, along with Brady. And you could, think of maybe a couple other guys, and then
Joe Montana.
Yeah, like Joe Montana, and maybe Steve Young too. I don't know. Whatever your tier one is, those guys you can't always, because how do you weigh?
Right.
How do you weigh what a touchdown is worth compared to a Super Bowl, or making, or there's some quarterbacks who, and Peyton has been able to do this a lot in his career, is manage games. Mm-hmm. Like, sure, he's the best player out there on the field, but also he doesn't have to go out there and win the game to the extent that Tom Brady has to win the game for his team. He has to make the right plays at the right times. He can't choke or they lose. It hasn't always been that way for either of them. I mean, there's been times when Brady's been able to just sort of coast, and Peyton's had to struggle a bit. But I agree. It's not about saying, well, this guy's better. Mm-hmm. It is about appreciating it. Although when you are asked the question, I have to say Brady.
As do I.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think of all that has changed in the last 15 years of our lives in the world, in America, even if you go watch, because they'll play these on NFL Network or something, if you go watch clips from the 2004 Manning-Brady games, even all that's changed in broadcasting.
Oh, yeah.
And yet still the same.
Yeah.
Are the two guys that are playing
seriously.
the game. And that is that's awesome.
It really is
utterly
cool to watch.
Unbelievable to me.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the greatest rivalries in sports all time.
And I know people get sick of it, probably outside of it, but I don't think I would ever get sick of it. I could watch Brady Manning. Brady Manning 91.
I saw a cartoon where they were real old and they were like playing checkers.
Yeah.
And Peyton was going, Omaha,
Right.
and like, I don't know what Brady said, but, it's like they'll probably, Now, I've never seen Peyton's wife.
Ashley, I've never seen her either. Yeah.
So but I'm assuming that, I'm sure she's gorgeous, but I'm assuming that Brady wins in that regard too.
Well,
and then House, I don't know. It's like, how are these guys going to compete once they've retired?
Ashley Thompson and
versus Giselle.
Yeah. Well,
she's like one of the highest paid supermodels in the world.
Yeah, but
I mean, sure. What's her name?
I was gonna say something, but I'm not.
I mean, she's the
Ashley Thompson.
And so I guess Ashley Thompson. She's the girl that you think you might have a chance with, whereas Giselle, no way. But Peyton's the guy that you think is like your next door neighbor,
right? Yeah,
and hometown guy compared to Brady. It's so funny too how they're so different personality wise, yet so good. And it's fun.
Yeah. Well, all right, fair enough. That's kind of not even.
We will long for it back. I think so. In 5-10 years, there's nothing budding that you're like, oh, that's the next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
nothing.
Yeah, I think Cam Newton might be one piece though.
Possibly, but who's the other piece?
Right.
You're like Aaron Rodgers. Like, no, the Packers choke every other playoff.
Right. Yeah. Drew Brees, no, he's sort of waning now.
Yeah.
Eli, no. There's no like Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson,
maybe.
See, somebody brought that up last week after the game, and no, it was brought up on Colin Cowherd's show, and Colin Cowherd just tore it apart. Like, he tears everything apart. But no, I think it could be. It could be.
But that's, I mean...
But again,
it's to be seen,
early.
but
that's what we all said about
early.
Brady Manning.
Right.
We all said it was too early for Brady Manning. So...
Well, we probably didn't because we were like 6, but yeah.
Well, true, yeah. I bet you there were people, social media didn't really exist at that time,
right.
But...
Here's a name, potential Kirk Cousins.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Might he be a dark horse?
Mm-hmm. I agree. I like that. Yeah. I agree. No. Anyway. Before we move on to Props 2, just a reminder to check out all of our social media outlets, facebook.com/delayofgame, at DOG_podcast on Twitter, or twitter.com/DOG_podcast. On our website, of course, the delayofgamepodcast.wordpress.com, and of course on YouTube. And now...
Time now for Props 2, the segment of the show where Delay of Game gives Props 2 someone or something.
All right, Brent, you're up first.
Brent Bonfleur.
Props 2.
Props to the Detroit Lions for donating, I think it's 94,000 bottles of clean drinking water to the people of Flint, Michigan.
Whoa!
You paid attention to the news at all.
I do.
You work in the news.
That's right.
The water is basically like poisoned, I guess, or polluted, whatever
lead.
word. Yeah, with lead. So props to Detroit, the Lions.
Yeah.
Can't win on the field. But hey.
Props 2.
Ain't that the truth?
I'm going to be a homer today. And me and Ryan were talking about this, or Ryan and I were talking about this. You don't call it off air on a podcast. What do you call it?
It's off air.
Off air? Okay.
Yeah, let's just stick with it.
We're on the airwaves? Okay, we were talking about it
before the show.
Before the show.
Oh,
thank
there
you.
we go.
We were talking about it backstage. Anyway.
Backstage.
Props to Yoenis Cespedes. I asked Ryan, when's the last time you can remember a highly touted free agent leaving $100 million on the table to return to a place that he wants to play, return to a place that he thinks he can win, and return to a place where he had a good time playing.
Joe Mauer?
Maybe.
I just thought of that, but I don't think he was ever a free agent. I think there was just
a lot of guys extend, and take hometown discounts.
Yeah.
But how many guys have $100 million on the table and they say, I don't really want that? And I have asked this question of anyone savvy enough as a sports fan. I'll pose it to you two right now. Why do players pinch millions of dollars? Why will a guy say, this team that wins every year was offering me $6.5 million, but this team that hasn't won a game in 40 years is offering me 6.6, and so I'll take that one. And I've never understood that.
No.
And I guess my only assumption is that it's about what it says about them. It says if that's the market, it's like $15 to $14 to us. It's just way inflated.
Yeah.
So that's what it says to them. Like, well, I'm better than such and such who took this deal. And Cespedes was in that ballpark. I mean, he was like, Justin Upton just got paid last week, and he got paid a truckload of money by Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
And Yoenis was going to get basically the same deal, maybe a little better, to say, I'm better than Justin Upton. And now, on the annual average value, he ended up doing better than Justin Upton anyway, but there's no telling what Yoenis might be worth in 3 years, considering that he's 30 years old. He left the security of the contract on the table. He left the significance of what it says about him as a player on the table, and he said that he loves playing in New York. And so obviously I'm elated as a Mets fan that he re-signed with the Mets this week, but I also think it's just awesome to see that in sports, because you don't see that anymore, and I think it says a lot about Yoenis as a man. So I thought that was pretty cool. Props to him for going against the grain and prioritizing the things that probably should be prioritized in sports over the money. Sometimes the capitalization of sports just kind of makes us all want to shower in steel wool. But it was cool to see that this week.
There we go. Quote of the day right there from Matt Rigby: shower in steel wool.
Oh, yeah.
How about that?
Ryan Swanigan.
Props to your boy Billy Donovan and the Oklahoma City Thunder, who literally, there's nobody talking about Oklahoma City. Nobody. And I've watched Sports Center in the middle of the night as I'm working, because I work during the night. Oklahoma City, here's some highlights. They won. Golden State Warriors, Cleveland Cavs, San Antonio Spurs. Oklahoma City is 7.5 back of first place at 33-12.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City, with new boy Billy Donovan leading the way. Nobody is talking about that team. So props to Oklahoma City.
Billy's the man.
For sitting in a very healthy third place right now.
Yeah.
And if third best team in the NBA overall.
Yeah, no one's going to want to play them. I don't think they're going to make the championship over San Antonio and Golden State, obviously. Yeah. But no one's going to want to play that team.
Oh, Billy Donovan is just getting it done, man. I mean, so props to him in Oklahoma City. Just phenomenal stuff. All right, now to the moment that everybody has been waiting for, the predictions. Because I feel like we have revived and rejuvenated the predictions here by Matt Rigby's brilliant thinking of having a record instead of the point system.
Yeah.
This is...
I don't know why he ever did points.
Because it was always, it made things close and fun, but it wore off as time went on. But we invented the record count now, or Matt invented the record count, and we've got some fantastic games. Like, this is a phenomenal week for predictions. Before we get to that, Matt Rigby, the latest standings, please, if you would.
Okay, I was leapfrogged by Ryan this week.
That's
one of the things I don't like about predictions, and this is just me complaining about now being in second place because there's no way to really change it. But I will caveat I'll take the Oklahoma 2 games we picked last week. I picked Oklahoma to win or to lose on the road. No, I picked them to win on the road against Iowa State, lose on the road against Baylor. Now, Once they lost to Iowa State, I would have changed my pick in the middle of the week based off of the trends, But then I was kind of locked in, and I wasn't surprised when they beat Baylor last night. But I will adjust. I will not chalk up any excuses to anything. Ryan is now.
Do you feel like a loser?
Absolutely. Ryan
You're only a game back.
Ryan is now beating me. He is 13-5.
Yeah, I sent them to you on
yes,
your phone.
I got it though. It's in my head. Ryan's 13-5. I'm 12-6. Brent is 11-7.
We're all separate. From first to third. This is a separation of 2 games.
That's the hardest thing is when a team plays twice,
right?
Because when it's tough opponents. We only pick the good games, so it's hard because if they win one, typically they're going to lose the other, or vice versa.
Well, you know what the underlying problem is? We're doing a podcast once a week.
Right.
If we were doing a podcast twice a week, it would be different because then we could break it up. First half of the week, second half of the week.
Yeah.
Or if we were doing a show, Monday through Friday, that would be the easiest thing in the world. But, number one, some of us have jobs. 2, some of us are in school. And 3, some of us just don't want to put in the time. I'll let you take your pick on which one of us that person is. But
I got stuff to do.
Oh, yeah, okay.
If you want to do all my schoolwork for me, we can go 5 days a week.
I'm done with that, man.
That's what I thought.
I am done, and it feels great. That's how I feel every day when I think about not being in school. Anyways, that is the circumstances in which we are placed in, and we get to the predictions. We're going to start out with a bang. Patriots-Broncos right off the bat. Nailing it down. AFC Championship game today, this afternoon, whenever you're listening to this podcast, yesterday, whatever. I'll start first. I've got the Broncos.
Wow.
I've got the Broncos. Yeah. How about that?
It's hard. It really is hard. This is not easy. I think a lot of people will be like, well, the Patriots, I don't, Manning's not what he used to be. I don't think that matters. I mean,
I'm looking at trends, by the way, in this pick, and I don't like the Patriots' defense.
Yeah.
I don't like. They are still struggling.
Yeah.
They are not healthy. They're struggling. You look at the Chiefs, man. The Chiefs had some unfortunate breaks go against them last week, and
honestly,
they could have beat the Patriots there.
It's the X factor that New England just brings, that somehow, despite all the crap that's going on, all the players who are injured, suspended, the scandals, whatever is going on, they just...
Bill Belichick
somehow the
and
ball
Tom
gets
Brady
tipped and Julian Edelman catches it for the first down. I'm going Patriots just for 15 years of X factor that you can't put a name to. Just something in the water in Foxborough. I'm going to go Patriots.
But they're not in Foxborough. They're in Denver.
Well, they drink the water from there.
That might be the key. I've said for 2-3 weeks in January, you don't turn the football over, which the Broncos didn't do last week. You run the football, which the Broncos did last week. You're healthy, which the Broncos are the healthier team. You're at home, and you play good defense. Those are kind of the 5 things. That being said, will you shut my mic off to save me from the shame of this answer? I'm just going to give it one word. I'm taking the Pats. I think.
Oh, yeah. Wow! Whoa! Oh, my gosh. That's unbelievable.
It kills me.
I can't believe this.
I think the Pats are going to win.
You gotta be kidding me!
I think the Pats are going to win, and I'm always honest about the Broncos games. I from week to week.
Oh,
I'm
it's easier as a fan.
Yeah. I can always tell.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I can tell. I feel like I can always tell.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like it's in the cards. The Pats are the better team. They're the better team.
Of all the dramatic things I've ever seen.
That's just. Wow. All right. Moving on. We have the other game later on following the AFC Championship game, the NFC Championship game, Cardinals and Panthers. I am really, really hoping that Arizona wins this game. I'm hoping so much that they win this game that I'm predicting them to win. That is how desperately I am hoping Arizona wins. Something about the Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals, I just like them. I don't know why.
Yeah, everyone likes them. I think if the people's Super Bowl is Arizona and Denver.
Yeah,
because you want to see the old guys, Fitz, Palmer, Peyton, all make it.
Of
blah
course,
blah blah.
but
Whoever wins. Yeah, it's great.
It's going to be the dark side against the dark side.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going with Carolina. I mean, I think that I actually think Arizona is, if you look at every single position and even factor in backups and everything, I think overall they are better. Overall. But Carolina is young. They have so much star power. They're hot.
Not hot on defense. I will say that. They're not that solid on defense right now. Still.
Yeah, I know that Seattle came back in a big way, but when you pitch a shutout 31-0 against Seattle, I mean, that's
first half.
I know. And the second half was like almost the exact opposite.
Yeah, it was.
One touchdown shy. I just can't pick against them right now.
Fair enough, Matt Rigby.
This is a tough game. I've thought that Carolina is the best team in the NFL. Because, a lot of people are underrating them with their record. Like, Dallas was favored over Carolina on Thanksgiving, even though Carolina was like 11-0. It didn't make any sense. But
they beat them 41-3?
Yeah, it was a blowout. Yeah. And I've thought Carolina is the most underrated and the best team in the NFL throughout the year. I've kind of had them in the Super Bowl since around Week 10 because of that. And they're at home, and they play great defense, and that's the recipe. But Arizona, I think the one thing that was exposed with Carolina last week was their secondary is not great outside of Josh Norman.
Right.
And we know that Bruce Arians wants to spread it out throughout the game, and he can exploit below average secondary probably better than any offensive game planner in the league. So I could see Arizona making some noise because of that. But then I flipped to them on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that when their season turned was when they lost the Honey Badger. I think that killed them. Mm-hmm. And so all things considered, I think that'll be a really close game, but when it's really close, especially in the playoffs, I go with the home team. So I'll go with Carolina.
And I think this AFC game is going to be like a 23-21 slugfest type of thing. I think NFC, I think you might hit the 40s.
You could. First to 40 wins, probably.
Yeah.
Or past 35.
I actually don't even think the AFC game will be close.
Really?
Really?
You think? Wow. No, I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a heck of a game.
Matt Rigby surprising us twice now.
But I'm even more sure that the style of the games is going to be very different.
Right, yes, that is for sure.
The second game is just going to be like lights out, offense, fun, exciting. The other one's just going to be like, which quarterback breaks first.
Exactly. All right, we'll just predict the one NBA game, and we'll have the rest posted on our Facebook page, facebook.com/delayofgame. Spurs versus Warriors in the beautiful city. Well, it's not in San Francisco, it's in Oakland. Yeah, but who cares?
Oakland's not beautiful.
Okay, yeah. That's an understatement right there, buddy. I would know.
I lived there, remember?
Oh, that's right.
Oakland's a dump.
That's not true! No, it is! And, yeah.
Yeah!
So, Spurs Warriors at Oracle Arena, across the street, literally across the street from another dump in Oakland that's home to the Raiders and A's. But this, I digress. I'm serious. We could go on. Yeah. Maybe that will be
Have you been to the Coliseum?
Yeah, I have.
Man, what did you think of it?
The Coliseum, no. I've been to Oracle. I've seen the Coliseum twice from the outside, and it's like...
I've watched 3 games at the Coliseum, and I think it's a mystical place. It's kind of like got this aura to it. But at the same time, like, you walk in and you're like, man, this place is a dump. That's
jumped.
your first thought.
I walk too far away from where all the people are.
I think it's a cool place to watch a baseball game, though. I do. Yeah. Like, it's got the atmosphere of it is kind of cool. But they need a new stadium. Anyway, I digress.
Tear it down, rebuild. Spurs Warriors, Brent.
Spurs, and I think slightly convincingly,
really?
Not like a huge blowout, but I think people are going to lose their minds and they're going to go, "Oh, is Golden State actually that good?" Oh my
God!
And I think that's going to be a totally pointless discussion. I think Golden State will be just fine. I just think that they're going to lose this game.
Okay. Matt, you want to give me a more realistic answer?
Yeah, this is the ultimate toss-up, I think. in that, like, both of these teams have proven that they are legitimate. I think in a 7-game series, it would go the distance.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that because it's kind of a toss-up, obviously I like Golden State because they're at home, but I also like them a little more because of the versatility of Draymond Green. I think he's the wild card in a game like this, and he would be the wild card in a series too.
Yeah.
Like I think he's a little more versatile than Kawhi, although Kawhi's like playing at an MVP level.
Right.
I think just the versatility of it. You look for one person who can do maybe the slightest thing on one team that the other team doesn't have.
Yeah, it's like Kawhi last year.
Right. Yeah.
It's Draymond Green this year.
Right. So it's very, very slight. The margin is slim, but I'll take Golden State.
Yeah, not a kid. I got Warriors. Of course, I always go Warriors.
Yeah.
You know what was funny? You remember what my excuse was all the time? Why I would pick Bay Area teams? Contractual obligations. I don't. That no longer exists. But I'm still picking the Warriors anyway. Simple as that. How do you not remember that joke? You should remember that joke.
Contractual obligations.
Yeah, maybe Kipper. Maybe that was before you came back.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, anyways.
Sorry.
That's okay. Rapid fire now through college basketball. You guys ready? Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Duke, Miami. Brent Bonfleur.
Duke.
Mr. Rigby.
Duke.
Duke across the board. I say that as well. Kansas, Iowa State. Very good matchup. Kansas is kind of in trouble.
Iowa State.
Iowa State.
All right, Iowa State across the board. Very nice. Up next, Xavier Providence. Another good matchup. Providence, the home team. Brent?
Xavier.
Ooh, okay. Like it.
I'll go Xavier, too.
I have Providence going with that home court advantage, which did help me out a lot last week. So
yeah.
It helps me out in college basketball quite a bit. All right, now we'll take a quick timeout from the rapid fire because this one is huge. This one is enormous. Iowa at Maryland. 2 top 10 teams in the Big Ten and in college basketball squaring off in College Park.
This is easy. Maryland.
Really?
They just lost to Michigan State. There's no way they're going to bounce back with another loss.
I agree with that, too. I think these elite teams, and I remember I said last week I thought Maryland was the best team in the country. I still think that on paper. Mm-hmm. These elite teams, they don't lose 2 in a row usually. No. And I truly think that Iowa's largely untested. I know they beat Michigan State, but I don't think they've reached the meat of the Big Ten schedule yet. I think you're going to start to see that because all these really good teams have a run in conference play where they lose like 2 in a week, and you're like, oh, are they good yet? I think that run's about to start for Iowa, and I think it starts in College Park. That's a long trip too. That's part of Iowa, Maryland, and Rutgers joining the Big Ten that I think goes underlooked. Like, that's tough. That's a tough trip in the middle of the week.
Long trip.
The game that I really am looking forward to see down the road is Iowa-Indiana, which is on February the 11th.
Indiana's heating up right now.
Oh, Indiana's so underratedly good.
I'm assuming you're going with Iowa.
I am going with Iowa. I really am going with Iowa. This is the one time I'm not going to go with home court advantage. It's probably going to hurt me, but I think Iowa's going to get it done. But because Maryland has just not looked good in their 2 losses, they have close games. That it's like, I don't know. But I'm going with Iowa. I'm sticking with the Hawkeyes. I can't believe I'm saying that, too, actually, now that I think about it. It really feels weird and wrong, but okay. Too late. Iowa's down. All right, back to rapid fire. Virginia, Louisville. Brent?
Louisville.
Okay. Matt Rigby.
I'll take Louisville, too. They're playing really good defense right now.
Who's Virginia Cavaliers? And I have them getting it done. That's a Virginia Cavalier thing. I wouldn't expect you to understand that, Brent.
No, I don't understand.
That's also for a friend of mine who lives in D.C., who's snowed in right now, believe it or not. 2 friends of mine who are snowed in D.C. right now. Iowa State, Texas A&M. I can't believe I'm saying Texas A&M, but believe it or not, they're a top 10 team in college basketball. Brent. Yeah, I know.
This is the tough one. If Iowa State loses to Kansas, you're like, they'll beat A&M.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a home game, though, for
I picked
Iowa
State to win the first one. So
this is a road game now for Iowa State.
Do you have to go? I think you have to go to Texas A&M. I mean, I I mean, all these teams, they beat one great team and then they lose to the next.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
right.
just,
I mean,
it's
you could always do what I'm going to do. I'm going to hedge my bets and just take Iowa State twice
Both
and
times.
say they win once.
Right.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, that's the smarter
I'll
move.
go with Iowa State.
All right, fair enough. I got Texas A&M. And finally, here's another good one. Kentucky taking on Kansas. Not Big 12 conference play.
Yeah.
This is, I guess, Big 12 SEC challenge, which it must have been postponed. That must be a postponed game, I guess. I can't remember why that's what's going on. So it's weird, but it works out great. Brent, what do you got?
I'm going to go to Kentucky.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go Kansas.
Yeah, I'm going to go Kansas, too. I don't like how Kentucky's playing right now. They
Me either.
Not really solid stuff. All right, that's going to do it for this show. Good stuff, as always. From the guys, Brent Bonfleur, Matt Rigby, I'm Ryan Swanigan. Of course, Facebook.com/DelayOfGame, Twitter.com/DOG_podcast, and our website. Brent, what is the website?
Oh, the Delay of Game podcast.wordpress.forever.com.
Not .forever. Take out that part.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
But anyways, we
Broncos.
will have. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There you go, Matt Rigby.
That's where I'm
Everybody,
headed.
killing
Watch
the
the
show
game.
again. This guy is clutch bucks over here. We also have we had an uploading error too, by the way, with last week's podcast.
Brian,
so if
you
you've
have
reached the
one
end of this
job.
one- yeah, no. If you
Come
reached
on.
the end of this one and realize, well, what about last week? Well, I forgot to mention that earlier. Go check out last week's as well. That's on our YouTube channel, on our website, and everywhere else. We'll see you next week, and enjoy the week in sports. It's going to be fun. I know that.